Segment 2, Gold and Black Live. And I always say this, but I always feel fortunate. This is the fun part of my job. I get to connect with some of my all-time favorite people and also my favorite basketball players to watch in Purdue history. Walter Jordan joins us, number 34, nicknamed cheerleader for a good reason, a two-time All-Big Ten player under Fred Schaus in 1977-78, played in the NBA, is active in a number of things with respect to basketball, doing good things in life, and we're going to hear from that. Walter, first, welcome to the show, and thanks for taking the time to join us.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate you taking time and thinking of me. That means a lot to me.
Well, Walter, you give us the elevator speech, or a couple, maybe a 24 elevator speech of what is keeping you busy. You're involved with basketball. You're involved with ministry and other things. Tell us a little bit about what's new with Walter Jordan these days.
Well, I've been tremendously blessed, Alan. God's really blessed my life. I've been in the kid business, as you know, all my life.
Yeah.
I've always dealt with young people, especially young men. Been blessed to have a organization that's lasted 19 years here in Georgia, where we've been blessed to have over 100 kids find their college homes, go to college on academic and basketball, athletic scholarships. Some playing in the NFL, some doing aerospace engineers. So we've been blessed. I do leadership conferences. I'm the CEO of impacting our youth around the country. I'm a motivational speaker, team impact organization. My wife and I in the health and wellness business. So we are really blessed. We got a full schedule and a full life, and I'm more excited today than I was 20 years ago about my life, believe it or not. So just really excited. I think the kids are really helping, keeping me going health-wise. I've had some health challenges, but overall, I feel really, really good and really, really blessed.
In Ackworth, Georgia, just north of Atlanta. You're an optimistic guy, and I'll start with that in terms of what keeps you optimistic. This has been a tough, not only a tough year, but a tough period of time from the pandemic, social media issues, social justice issues, I should say. What keeps you saying, hey, we're going to get through this, and we're going to move to live to a better day?
Well, one of the things I had to realize early on is that I was blessed with my siblings, how I grew up, and even though we didn't have much, we had love, we had each other. Never was a day that I felt like I wasn't loved or I was by myself or I was alone. We had God in our life, we had a Christian spiritual home. So when you're dealing with kids, people looking at you and parents and in the hundreds that you've coached over the years, some adults, some are parents, some are now doing their own thing, but they always call Coach Jordan because they remember Coach Jordan cared, and that means the world to me. So when they call me, I have to be positive. I have to suck up my own personal selfish anger and bitterness and say the right thing and make sure they understand that they can overcome it. They got to see the glasses half full, not half empty. So when this example, just the other day, one of my kids called me and said, Coach, why is the world so evil? Why is there so much racism? Why? I said, well, I said, here. You want the good news or the bad news first? He said, give me the bad news. I said, bad news is that 60%, let's say 6% or 40% of America are racist. Just say 40%. That's on the low scale. I said, but here's the good news. The good news, that means 60% are not. And so you have to remember that. That's 5% of those 40% don't even know that they're racist. And the other 5% will never admit it. Yeah. So understand the numbers and see the glasses half full. So we got a chance. 6% are not. So let's focus on that 60% and make sure you're included in that 60%.
Yeah.
So you can move your life forward.
Yeah, well said. And you look at this, and going back to your days in West Lafayette, a different time, but you were an extremely popular player. You played in the Big Ten when it was. It's a great league right now, but there are more pros, I think, from 1974 to 78 than there's probably ever been when you talk about the names of Michael Thompson and Ray Williams and Kelvin Ramsey and Joe Barry Carroll and Magic Johnson, all the way down through Larry Bird, of course, not in the Big Ten. Looking back at that lens, I mean, it was a great time to be a Boilermaker, and the fans loved you and you produced. But how do you look at that a few years later?
Incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible. I mean, I still think that in 74, when we were able to win the state championship in Indiana, and 9 months later, we're playing IU, number one ranked team in the country. Yeah. 19-year, we had 3 freshmen.
Yeah.
And we're playing at Bloomington. and scared. I about pissed on myself.
Yeah.
But you're going out to play against Scott May after 9 months of being in high school, and then you come back and you realize it's a different world.
Yeah.
Every night in the Big Ten, you had to lace them up. I remember the Minnesota team. You know, they had 4 NBA greats. Go look at NBA history. They end up being really prominent in NBA. That team was as talented as any in the country, and they never finished any higher than 3rd or 4th in the Big Ten. And we were pretty good. You know, we had a lot of talent, and we were blessed to never. I don't think ever finished lower than third in the Big Ten. And back today, if you finish 3rd in the Big Ten, you're number 1 seed and number 2 seed in the tournament.
Yeah.
But we only had 32 teams, so I think about that a lot because my goal was always to get us to the Final Four. That's what I thought we had the talent and we could do it, but we just had some tough battles. Man. It was tough to even get into the dance. You know that you had to finish first in the Big Ten to even get a shot. But back then, what you were saying, you turn around and in the Final Four every year, you had a Michigan, an Indiana, somebody from the Big Ten or somebody you played against. I mean, you look at UCLA with Marcus Johnson and Richard Washington, those guys, 2 bookend All-Americans. We're playing them at their place in the middle of their long wing streak. Yeah. And I always tell a story about how Wayne and I were sophomores and we were going against Richard Washington at halftime. I think both of them got 20. Yeah. And then Wayne and I in the locker room talking about who's going to guard second half. I said, hell, it don't matter. Pick your poison. Yeah. I mean, but that's how tough it was. And the Big Ten's tough, no question about it. But from top to bottom, I would have to say when we played, that was no picnic. And we had talent everywhere. NBA players on every team, from Northwestern to Wisconsin. It didn't matter. They had NBA talent and players, and we had to show up. No question about it.
Billy McKinney at Northwestern. You had Wes Matthews at Wisconsin. There was talent, and those teams were at the bottom of the league at that time. I mean,
you know what, Alan? Since you mentioned both of those names, because one of the things I treasure most about my Purdue days is relationships and opponents and the respect you get for each other. Billy McKinney and I are very, very close friends. He's now a mayor in his hometown where he grew up. And we talk all the time. In fact, Wes Matthews just texted me yesterday and said, brother, I love you. Yeah. I mean, because the respect, we knew that it was going to, that respect factor comes when you compete like we competed.
Yeah.
And I love the relation. Michael Thompson was one of my best friends coming out of college. He texts me all the time. Now he's big time with the Lakers. Yeah. But it's just amazing when you got that kind of love and respect for your opponent. Ray Tolbert, Landon Turner, those are my guys. Wayne Rafford, bless his soul, just passed away. That was my guy.
Yeah.
And so we don't get it twisted. We'll play. We'll go at it midnight any day of the week. We play IU. I mean, don't get it twisted because we wouldn't change a thing because we knew we were going to bring it, and that's respect that we have for each other for the game.
You know, you're in your career in Mackey Arena's history, I should say too. Really, 3 of the most lightning, magnetic atmosphere with the Purdue IU games your freshman and sophomore years, which were close losses to a team that didn't lose in the Big Ten, Indiana. Then in '77, you come in and play them on national TV. Your junior year, one of those first Sunday Dick Enberg games.
Absolutely.
Talk about that in terms of, what that was like to come in. I can remember those games I was a high school student, but people were in Mackey Arena an hour before the game. The place was jammed. I've never seen the environment any better than it was, even in a couple of close losses your freshman and sophomore years against Scott Mays, Steve Green, Quinn Buckner on down the line. This was an unbelievable Indiana team.
Unbelievable team. I mean, we played lights out. I think we shot like 60%, had 8 turnovers, and still got beat by a point to that team, 2 or 3 points by that team. Yeah. And so we thought we had them beat. Scott Mays, I hated playing against you guys because it didn't really matter what the situation was. We believe that we can beat them. Yeah. We still believe we can beat them, even though they was undefeated, lost 1 game my sophomore and my freshman year. But it was just an intense battle. It really didn't matter. I remember the IU, you could tell it was IU week. It's when you wake up and walk around campus and go into classes. I mean, sororities and dorms would have sheets cut out and drawing pictures. I remember one sheet that had pictures that drawn a picture of me and Wayne Walls, and JJ on Good Times was popular at the time, and they said dynamite, you know. But it's just, you can tell it's IU week. The professors were talking about the game. Everybody's talking about the game. Everybody. So we come to practice. It was so intense. I mean, there was fights. In practice, never having fights because we were that geeked up to play Indiana.
Yeah.
And the thing I love about my teammates, and Eugene especially, and Wayne Wong, and Dick Parkinson, and Joe Bear, we love playing the big game.
Yeah.
The big game was we had to come down. We didn't have to try to get up for it. We had to come down. We were just too high, make sure we were under control. And we should talk about it all the time, man. Just make sure we, but that's the fun part of being in a group of the guys that you love and respect. And are going to show up with you in the big game.
Yeah.
That's why I thought we had a chance to get to the Final Four. And we had that one chance against North Carolina. We know what happened with that. But to play them at their home place in the tournament was not a good deal. But we had them the 6-point lead with a minute something to go and ended up losing the game. So.
Still some bad calls in that game down the stretch. I still have forgotten that, but I know you haven't as well. But talk about your dear friend Eugene Parker, and you obviously both grew up in Fort Wayne, went to different high schools. He had a great impact. Of course, Eugene passed a few years ago, 4 years ago. It's hard to believe it's been that long. But a guy that had an impact on you as a person, but on everybody he was around. Of course, Eugene came in as the same class with you, started basically all 4 years with you at guard. But tell us about his impact and still what his legacy means for you today.
Wow. Eugene is, they called him Dreamer.
Yeah.
Eugene was so special to me. We were sophomores in high school, and I remember walking a couple miles to see him play. He was on varsity. He was a stud. He was a star. Everybody was talking around town. I was on JV, and one of my best friends and I decided to walk on Wednesday to play the game. We didn't have a game to go see him play at high school. And I'll never forget the game. He's incredible. After the game, I walked up to him and said, Eugene Parker, you bad, ain't you, Eugene Parker? You bad. And he teased me about that till the days before he passed. Because he always say I walked up to him. And then what people don't realize in high school, Eugene Parker is one of the best players in the state, bar none. And because he didn't get out of the sectional or regional, nobody knew who he was.
Right.
Purdue did. He was their number one recruit, not me.
Yeah.
I ended up going to Purdue because of Eugene Parker and Fred Arrington.
Yeah.
Fred Arrington was my classmate from kindergarten, middle school, high school in Purdue. The only guy I ever went to the class, my classmate all the way through my educational system was Fred Arrington. I had so much respect for him and Eugene Parker. When Fred committed to go to Purdue before in the football season, I was going to Indiana or Michigan or Marquette or somewhere, Michigan State. But Eugene asked me to come to Purdue with him. He'd drive down to Purdue with me. I'm going for a visit. You ain't got nothing to do. Ride down. So I rode down with Eugene. And I got in the car. We just talked and talked. I went down to Purdue, and Fred Schouts kept calling me Audie Matthews because Audie Matthews was supposed to be coming.
I remember that, Audie Matthews, yeah.
Right. And so
went to Illinois, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And he because Audie was supposed to be there but didn't show up. He was going to commit to Illinois that night.
Yeah.
And so Fred kept calling me Audie Matthews, and then because they couldn't believe that I would even think about coming to Purdue because everybody thought I was going to IU. I had two brothers and a sister going to Indiana. Yeah. I was a huge IU fan growing up. But Eugene, I had so much respect for him. Driving back, he says to me, how awesome would it be if we played?
Yeah.
And it just stayed with me forever. And then finally, when it came time to make a decision, we were at a banquet. He said, I'm going to commit to Purdue because between, I think, Tulane and Purdue. And he says, I'm going to commit to Purdue. And then he said, just take another visit and then pray about it. And I did, and ended up signing with Purdue. And so a lot of that is Eugene Parker recruiting me. And I'm so glad he did because he's touched my life, even now, in so many ways. He made me a better person. He inspired me to do better, be better. And that's just Eugene. That's just who he was. He had big dreams. He had the right name, Dreamer. But I love him. I love him as if he's my seventh brother. and just missing him.
I know that is true, and hard for anybody to fully realize that, because you had all this history and tradition with him, and that part is hard. Another Atlanta native, or Atlanta resident now, area resident, Joe Barry Carroll. You know, again, you think about the talent when you have a Jerry Seething, a Walter Jordan, a Bruce Parkinson, a Joe Barry Carroll, Wayne Walls, Kyle Macy at one time as well. Joe's a pretty special guy in terms of a guy to play with, and you get a chance to play with him a couple of years before you graduated. Talk about Joe.
Joe is a freshman when he first came in Rocky Mountain High. When Joe first came in, first time we went to the gym, he was working out. I was just amazed by his touch on the ball, his great hands, his footwork, and his intelligence. He had it. He had it all. There's no question in my mind he's going to be an All-American.
Yeah.
Before he left Purdue, and he, in my opinion, he could have been a 10-year NBA All-Star if he wanted to be.
Yeah.
Joe had so much going on, so much intellectual going on, so many other things he wanted to accomplish, and he's accomplished it. He's succeeded at a very, very high level.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of it. I went to his book signing. Bought a book. He had a story in there about Eugene, and I just love what he's doing. And he's artistic, and he just does great things, and just very talented individual. So much love. I'm so happy to see the success he had with Purdue his last 2 years there. You talked about that team. I hate, one of my biggest regrets is having Kyle Macy leave, because I love playing with Kyle Macy. I never get to the Minnesota game where it's like 110, 112, something like that.
Yeah, 112, 111.
Yeah, and just that game, how we played, battled and came back and battled at Williams Arena, which is not a hard place to play against all those future NBA stars,
Yeah.
And it just amazed me how good we could have been. Think about the guard play we would have had with Cease and Eugene and Parkinson and Kyle Macy, and then up front with Joe Barry and Wayne Walls and myself and Gerald. I mean, think about the talent we had, and we was looking forward to that. So that was a tough summer. We found out that he was not coming back, and but we ended up having a decent season my junior year, and so I look back on that kind of thing and say, wow, God had planned. God had a plan.
Yeah, it was a talented and fun group to watch, to say the least. All right, you keep track of Purdue basketball now, Matt Painter and company. An interesting team, some interesting. They obviously have shown they're very young, a little bit like you guys were. 5 freshmen, a couple of them are redshirts that are making a huge impact on this team. The future is bright, though they had a difficult game this past weekend against Michigan. But what do you like from what you see, and who might be your pick to click from some of the guys that really impress you from Matt's team right now?
I love the young fellas.
Yeah.
I love their swag.
Yeah.
I love their fearless nature. It's like, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
They lace them up and they compete, and there's no sign of fear at all in those young men. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to get emotional. I love the emotion.
Yeah.
That's going to mature. People say, man, he got out good. He cares.
Yeah.
And it seemed to be selflessness, and they seem to root for each other. Even guys on the bench, even the freshmen on the bench not playing as much. They're rooting like as much as they're playing like 40 minutes. Yeah. So I love the makeup of this team. They can stay together, keep going, and what they got coming in.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it could be very, very special. We know the chemistry piece and all that other stuff have to fall into place. You gotta be good, you gotta be lucky, all that stuff we know. But if they bring that to the table, the law of averages says they're gonna be pretty damn good and have a great chance to do some serious damage next season.
Your impressions of Travion Williams, I mean, obviously turning into I think a first-team All-Big Ten level guy. He's really become kind of grown into what he does. I mean, he's almost a point guard at center, just in terms of the way he kind of directs traffic. What's your impression?
He is so fun to watch.
Yeah.
When he's on his game, he is so fun to watch.
Yeah.
His post moves, his passing ability, He's running the floor now, which he really didn't do because he's shape and he's out of shape. He's lost the body, looks good. He seems like he's leadership piece of step. I saw him get in front of getting freshman face a couple times.
Yes, he did.
That's the kind of stuff that you love, especially as a Purdue alumni. You see that the need is there. Last year we had nothing against those guys, but we had guys on the floor that wasn't offensive threats, and that hurts a Trayvon Williams. When you got guys on the floor that all can take, even Sasha. I'm impressed with Sasha. He's taking the ball off the bounce now. Before all he did was shoot that 3-pointer. He's a 90% free throw shooter, but never shooting free throws. So let's get to the line, young man. But those are things that I see that are really fun to watch the development of these young people and getting them better. That's what I love about the program. Is guys don't come in and be a one and done guys. They come in there to get better and have an opportunity at the next level, if so be it. And that's what I love about what Payne is doing with the big guys. I love the big freshmen. We haven't missed a beat. I mean, he has a chance to be truly special. Yeah. So I'm kind of looking forward to the development, see what happens this summer in this pandemic. Hopefully it's get some under control where they can go play and do all the other things they need to do. But if they stay together and keep working, keep the right attitude, mental toughness, expect great things.
Yeah, I think you're right, and it is going to be fun to watch that coaching staff. And Matt's got a really good group with him too. I mean, when you look at his entire staff, from Brandon to Micah Shrewsbury and Coach Lutz as well, really good staff of guys that can develop guys, and I think that makes a huge difference as well.
I appreciate you bringing those guys up, Alan, because Brandon, all the entire coach staff. I text Coach Payne throughout the season back and forth, just great game, good job, that kind of thing. But they have treated myself. I speak for myself. They have never forgotten about me. Yeah. And I appreciate that. As a former player, that wasn't always the case. But this coaching staff, they've embraced me, and I hope all the rest of the alumni do. And so we want to feel part of the program. We want to do what we can to help the program and support the program, because we still believe gold and black. And we want to make sure that these young men get the opportunities that we've been blessed to have after we move on.
Yeah, well said. And we're going to do this again. This is going to be an annual feature, because we haven't even scratched the surface of stuff we can talk about. And I do think one comment is, I think that's the best thing Matt Painter does. He has, even as a former basketball manager myself, he makes even the managers feel important. It's important. His staff does. And it always warms my heart when I see old number 34. That would be Walter Jordan and Frank Kendrick, both. You guys are always you make a habit of getting back for games, back when we could be at games, and we'll be at games next year. I'm hopeful for that. But my point is, that's one of the best things that this Purdue basketball program has going for it. And you're right, the future is very, very bright. Walter, please be well and be safe. And yet also, we appreciate so much your insight. It's always a positive message, but a reflective one as well, and we appreciate that too. And that we'll do this again, and we still, like I said, we got 100 things to talk about in terms of your history and also basketball as well. But have a great rest of the day. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back for segment 3 of Golden Black Live. Walt, let me give you the last word. Go ahead.
I'm just going to tell you, we can do it without people like yourself. And that's you guys are bigger than you think you are. That you know, people listen to you, people hear you. It helps with the recruiting and building our program, our brand. And you guys are first class. And you and Miss Cirque and Miss Larry, you guys have been a big part of
well, thank you. And we're lucky to work with Brian and Tom. And it is a very fun part of this job to be able to connect with people like you. So we will take a short break. Come on back to segment 3. Ben Palillo will join us. We'll talk about the great Carissa Yason as well and her legacy as we go to segment 3 of Golden Black Live.